Welcome, friends, to another edition of More Bad News, brought to you as always by Camel Cigarettes. Take the Camels Challenge, smoke Camels for 30 days, and see for yourself why more doctors smoked Camels than any other cigarette. See what a difference Camels can make in your life. Well, folks, I just finished reading Ian Baruma's new biography of Spinoza. Here it is. It's very nice. And just as I finished it, Noel brought uh, uh, Cambridge University, Stephen Nadler's Spinoza. This is the standard biography written in 1999. This is the primo biography of Spinoza. I highly recommend both. As his parents died, Spinoza went to the secular court to fight for his share of the family inheritance. After winning the case, he took only his parents' bed and gave the rest of his parents' estate to his sister. Later in life, he was offered a prestigious professorship, and he turned it down, saying it would disturb his tranquility. Finally, when a dying friend offered to leave him a fortune, Spinoza refused to accept it. He lived his life simply, earning an adequate living, grinding lenses. Tomorrow is my birthday. I'll be 77 years old, and I just wanted to say I don't want gifts. I have no Patreon account. I don't monetize the channel. I don't even ask people to subscribe. But if any of you are dying and would like to leave me a small fortune, be assured I will accept it. On this point, Spinoza and I part company. I should also mention that I was born on the 18th of March, 1947, which corresponds to the 26th of Adar, 5707. Every 19 years, those two dates come together, and for the rest of the time, they are separate. And on leap years, I have 3 birthdays. This is a leap year. The Jewish calendar includes 7 leap years with an additional Adar 2. So 26 Adar 1 was March 6th. Tomorrow is my secular birthday. And in early April, Adar 2 will roll around and I'll have my 3rd birthday. If you're not happy with just one birthday, you might want to consider Judaism, and you will be guaranteed at least 2 birthdays most years. In the conclusion to his biography of Spinoza, Baruma writes, when liberal journalists criticized policies of the Bush administration, a Republican official famously replied to the critics that, quote, they are in the reality-based community. He argued that was not the way of the world any longer, at least not from the point of view of the Bush administration. Quote, we're an empire now. When we act, we create our own reality. The Trump era pushed this principle even further when criticism was routinely called fake news and the president made things up as he went along. The project for a new century was begun in 1997. The idea was that the US was now the sole superpower, having defeated communism, and the world belonged to us. Literally, it was our century to do with as we pleased. Of course, with our neoliberal ideology, we would bring freedom to the world along with free market capitalism. We charged into Iraq and everything went up for sale. It was literally a fire sale. And despite the devastating failure of that ideology, which has left Iraq a smoldering ruin, the ideology persists in the Republican Party. Baruch continued, creating their own reality is what totalitarian states do. But the right-wing attack on truthfulness echoes views promoted on the left as well. Progressives who believe that the truth is just a reflection of relative power, that objective truth is just a way to disguise social and political and sexual privilege. Baruma concluded, freedom of thought is under threat from secular ideologies which insist that as the church did, on ideological conformity. There is no room for reasoned argument when views that don't conform to strict moral codes are regarded not just as untrue, but as sinful. Even scientific thinking today can be risky if it fails to affirm particular beliefs in social justice, or I would argue in the future. This poses a similar threat to the intellectual life that the church did in Spinoza's time, because it leads to timidity and conformism. Fear, as Spinoza kept insisting, is the enemy of clear thinking. I also came across an interesting journal article last week, The Sociology of Futurelessness by Richard Tutton. Tutton argues that in the 1980s, concern for nuclear war began to alter our conceptions of the future. So we doers are not alone in realizing that what is left is the past and the present, and the idea that humanity has centuries ahead of it is now held by only those who cling to dogma. People think in terms of the future, but since we have no future, one must really think in terms of the present and the past. For example, we are now focused on the 2024 election, but what is really important is the present in which Trump controls the Congress and the Republican Party. We live in Trump's America, from frozen embryos where people and to women's health care, everything is really in the shadow of Trump. Biden would like to aid the Ukrainians, but Trump is able to block the president. It is not Biden in control, it's Trump in control. In the 1860s, Southern leaders didn't deny that Lincoln had won the election. It didn't matter to them. They couldn't accept his election. And that is where we are today. Trump supporters don't need to deny the election. They will never accept it, and neither can the opposition. Whatever the results of the next election, our future will not be decided by it. Beyond this, and much more important, is the reality that our climate crisis. It is not a crisis that has anything to do with the future. The climate crisis is about the next decade. We live on a planet that is now in the present endangering our lives. In 1818, Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein, the story of how technological advance was not in human control. Humans might advance technological change, but they weren't in control of it. They were creating a monster that was going to destroy them. In 1826, she wrote The Last Man, a novel about human extinction. And after World War I, noting how technology had been turned into advanced warfare and destruction, Freud speculated that humans had a death wish. The advance of technology is often seen as progress, but it is only progress towards the end of our existence, which is now clearly within view. We know this, that from accounts of Auschwitz, there were many people who arrived, who upon arrival at Auschwitz, looked about them and died from the shock of the reality that they had entered. It occurs to me that this is happening all over the world in a subtler fashion to many people who are dying from the shock of the reality of our imminent extinction. But most of us are like the frog in the water as it approaches boiling. My father used to say we live in hope. Others turn to fentanyl or an AK-47. For those who wish to find another way, I recommend Spinoza. Well, friends, that will have to do for this week. I'm headed out to the forest where I find comfort, and take care, be well. I'll see you next week.